Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you might be watching this from. Today we are at Skardu International, which is located deep into the northern areas of Pakistan. We can see from here Himalayas, mountain ranges, Karakoram, and few others. So the flight plan that I followed or filed today is from Skardu to Dubai International. This flight, in reality, I wouldn't say it exists, but just for the sake of this live stream, we are gonna just perform this flight. And the flight plan generated is via SimBrief. You can watch out the multiple videos that there are. There are multiple tutorials that teach you how to generate a flight plan and then import that to the simulator and all that. Anyhow, the focus is not on how to file a flight plan rather than enjoying the flight and looking at the scenic views that this flight provides. So we have external power available, but at this airport, neither in the simulator nor in real life is very developed. So assuming that simulator provides external power, so what we're gonna do is avail that and try to start the APU. Then we'll perform the necessary checks and before start and all that, and get on with our flight. So I'm gonna start with the APU. Sorry, I just turned on the bleed while talking. So we're gonna just wait until we have avail lit, and then we will turn on the APU bleed. And meanwhile, I have also um, aligned the RS or put them to the nav, which takes about 7 minutes, if I'm not wrong, more or less, to align. And then we will have all the um, um, IRS related information that we need. I'm gonna just set brightness of panels and all the visual things that we need. I am connected to VATSIM, but unfortunately in this area there is no ATC coverage, so we might have to do Unicom, and then when we depart, we might find ATC on our way to Dubai. Maybe there's some ATC around Karachi or Islamabad, and then finally to Dubai. The flight time in this, it's around 3.5 hours. So not sure really what to talk about or what to do during these um, fairly long hours. So we might be playing some music along and I don't know, chat along. So let's start with configuring the MCDU uh, or FMC as Boeing people would like to call it. So I've already told you that I have already filed the flight plan from Skardu to Dubai. So what I'm gonna do is with this integration that already fly-by-wire provides. So we're gonna just request our flight plan. It takes about a second. There we go. And um, to init page, we will request, and we have a flight plan. We're gonna have to configure few pages. Fuel in this case, we're gonna take about, I just feel it's the right, just about the right amount, and we should be able to make it with the fuel. So I'm not gonna change anything, and it automatically calculates our zero fuel weight and everything related to it. So in the performance, I'm gonna set some parameters. Flaps will be 1 on the takeoff. And the temperature, I'm not really sure about the external temperature, and I'm gonna find that out right now. Just about a minute. Okay, so since I am using the live weather and live time, so external temperature at this moment in Skardu is around 22 degrees Celsius. However, we see snow-capped mountains outside. That's because of the altitude that we find ourselves. Skardu is located fairly low in the valley. The valley is around 9,200, if I'm not wrong. Oh, sorry, 7,300 feet. And well, the surrounding mountains are fairly high, relatively compared to the Skardu Valley. Anyhow, moving on to the configuration of performance page. Um, the V1 and VR and V2 are calculated according to the zero fuel weight and and all the parameters that we have provided. Um, and then just moving on to flight plan, we should be able to see the flight plan that we have filed. I'm gonna just have to make sure that we followed everything. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna set our departure runway, and that is runway 32. That's really interesting because the flight plan that I followed or filed in brief, I could see um, that the stars, even everything was defined, but um, importing that into fly-by-wire somehow is not working. So I might have to reset something over here. Okay, so that's a bit weird. The flight plan that it's showing me. Okay, it seems like we might have to manually add everything. Okay. The next waypoint would be runway 32 selected. There are no signal stars available. I think there's a conflict um, with SimBrief and flight plan that we are following. Has never happened to me. That's pretty funny. So what I'm gonna do is try to reload the aircraft. So this is, I would say, some kind of a trick that I might get to work. Okay, reloading. Okay, let's try now. Right, request. Okay, let's see if the flight plan has. That's pretty weird. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna just try to manually do it. Not sure really how to do it. I've never really manually tried to configure MCDU. Okay, so the airway is Delta Charlie Tango. Interesting. And our waypoint is Delta, the first waypoint from this. Right. And then from Delta is Bunji. Sorry. Ah, crap. I'm gonna have to remove Bunji. Delta. From this, the next was Delta. Okay. Delta. Click on Delta. The next one would be Bunji, which might not be the correct pronunciation, but that's how it sounds. Then Capmi, which is Kilo Alpha Papa Mike India. Yep. Kilo Alpha Mike Papa India. Oops, sorry. I'm gonna select this one and then Alpha Mike Papa India. Okay. So from this one we go to Bavro, right? Okay, we have this in place, and from Bavro the next waypoint would be Dombi. Delta Oscar Mike Bravo India. Alright, gotten so far till Dombi. Okay, right, the next one is Hangu. Hotel Alpha November Golf. This might be very boring for me, it is, because I never do this and I'm not really completely sure that it's the way it is done. dog and try to see if it can find out on its own the next waypoint. Okay, insert. And when we click on this one, nope. Click on this one. Oh, that's interesting. I'm gonna just shut this developer mode and right. Okay, I'm gonna just insert these one and see how it looks, and I'm gonna not, well, doesn't look really good because the standard departure would look way different. Okay, so I'm gonna just try one more thing over here and see it works. Not sure why it activates the thrust reversers. So between my flights, right. So we will select the aircraft again.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
Okay. Let's see. What I've done is just file another flight plan which says a completely different destination, not Dubai. So I'm gonna do is try to import that one using SimBrief and see if it works. So if it does, then it might be something wrong with the integration with what do you call our current destination and the aircraft. So if we load that, yeah, we can see that this one seems to work perfectly fine. We have all the correct waypoints and all that. So not sure. Maybe I might have to file the flight plan again and try to start from zero. Well, that's a bummer. Really didn't expect before streaming that this would be happening. So yeah. Okay. So I'm also on the way. What I'm gonna try is try to load another flight plan. Sorry, another alternative route, as I would like to call it, and see if it really works for us. And this alternative route is not really going into Afghanistan. It's going to just fly over Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, and just stay in the territory of the country, and then move on to Iran and then Dubai. And let's generate this one. We will repeat the whole process, however boring it might be. So we're gonna have to do it again, and hopefully this time it will work. If not, then we're gonna have to end the stream or change our destination and fly to somewhere else. Well, yeah. The aircraft selector, right? Here we go. And fingers crossed this time we might be actually do. Okay, come on alive. Right. Okay. What is it showing right now? Weirdly enough, it's already showing us the flight plan. So I'm gonna request this one. Skardu Dubai. Init. Request. And yeah, there we go. We have an error over here which says waypoint mismatch. That is the reason it's not showing us the correct flight plan. So what we can do is edit this flight, and we're gonna just change our destination. So this time I would just change our destination to Islamabad. Gonna generate the flight. Okay, so one last time. Sorry about all the fuss. And this was completely unplanned and not thought of. So I will actually, what I would like to do is not only do this, go to main menu and start this all over again. Hmm, quite funny. Okay, so before anything, I'm gonna just turn off this developer option. Okay, set departure. I'm gonna set everything else to live. And yeah, let's just spawn into the stand that we were sitting at. Okay, so let's start from the scratch. Avail power, battery switches on, and fuel pumps. Align IRS, and then we will just wait everything to load. So meanwhile, I'm gonna load up the flight plan. Init, request, init page, request. Then go to fuel predictions. We have 0 fuel weight, performance. I'm gonna do this quickly because I already talked about it and already showed you. So these are the values that are calculated automatically. Flight plan, we have it over here, and at the end of our descent or before descent, just at the end of the cruise, we will be choosing our destination arrival, and yeah, so that's why we see a flight plan discontinuity over there. We know, however, what runway we are going to be landing, so we might actually do it sooner. And yeah, I'm gonna just quickly set everything as we did before, and our initial altitude and all that, 15,000 feet. TCAS, cockpit door, displays. And meanwhile, we are getting our IRS aligned. I'm gonna just turn on the APU, and since we are at higher altitude, then there's a risk of icing, so I'm gonna just turn these on before even taking off. And everything else seems okay to me. Turning on seat belts and smoking signs, and just panel lighting. Right, so we have about 5 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is just look around the landscape that we have. So we have APU starting. So meanwhile it does that. Come back to it and proceed with it. Okay, so this is the valley, the Skardu Valley. We have actually 2 runways in Skardu, and as much as I am aware of it, there's only one runway in use, which is the one on the right. You see the 3, 2, and 1, 4, and the one on the left is, I think, in the real life might even be discarded or not used. Um, the valley is quite famous in touristic manners as well. We see over here there's an Indus River which is quite vast. It might be a bit different from as compared to real life, but it's a pretty cool depiction, and it's satellite imagery which might be very close to the real thing. We see over here it's covered, so no, snow covered mountains, and very high altitude and very um, dangerous and demanding terrain as from the perspective of aviation. So you have to follow very strictly some procedures and some rules, and all the precautions that are mentioned. So even coming into land or arrival into Skardu is quite difficult, quite challenging, I think. And I've made that video, or sorry, I've made that flight quite a times, and every time it's challenging. So yeah, apart from that, it's a beautiful destination, and yeah. So since we were starting our APU, we will just move back into the cockpit, and what I'm gonna do is turn on the APU bleed, and as IRS will be aligning in 3 minutes, so what I'm gonna do is just gonna start our pushback, which is not very standard, so I'm gonna just do it anyway since we have wasted a lot of time. And while we are getting the IRS, we should be able to start the taxi, and we'll be starting our engines meanwhile. So I think there is no tug available. So what I'm gonna do is just do this manually and do this via this pushback. What do you call add-on that I use. Forward. Since we have APU available, I'm gonna start one engine. Only caution lights. Beacon is on. And since we are connected to VATSIM, I'm gonna just tune into the Unicom frequency and let our other departures or arrivals, potential departure and arrivals that might be in the area, and know them or let them know our intentions. Okay, so engine 1 is started. Sorry, engine 2 is started. I'm gonna just start engine 1. And once we are lined up, and we'll stop the pushback and just start taxi. We have wires aligned. This beep that you just heard was about TCAS alert or TCAS warning that it pops every time you start. So gonna end the pushback. Since we have both engines started, I'm gonna turn off the engine starter, turn off the APU, and the taxi lights will be on. And our departure is via runway 32, if I'm not wrong, just to make it sure. Yep, the departure is via runway 32. So we are currently in the middle. So 32 is just about on the right turn. So we'll exit this taxiway, then make a right turn. Okay, so we have taxi checklist. We have flaps 1. I will arm the speed just for takeoff, and then taxi lights are on. Since we're going to be entering the runway, so we will have to turn on our landing light as well. I've already set the departure altitude. Initial altitude is 15,000. And we will just head out and taxi to runway 32. So since we are on Unicom, so I'm gonna be just announcing our intentions. Our call sign today is 632, and well, obviously the airline is Pakistani Airlines, so this is Pakistani 632. Pakistan 632 is at Skardu runway 3214, and we will be departing runway 32 to Lahore in about 2 minutes. Okay, so we'll continue taxi, and I think we have a bit of a traffic today. literally get over the beauty of this destination. And the FS 2020 just really makes it very mesmerizing. That's quite realistic. I mean, the texture and everything is very close to the real thing. We'll just make a turn at the end of the runway. We have a buffer over there. Might not be visible because everything is snow filled, and as you can see, the Microsoft Flight Simulator is already working on fixing these bugs that you see over here. The ground traffic being the way that it is right now, roaming around on the active taxiways and on the runways and all that. So hoping to get that fixed anytime soon in the future. Okay, so we will make a turn over here into runway 32, which is our departing runway. I'm not sure about the real thing, but in the simulator I've never seen the runway 32 and the other one on the left being connected. So just line up over here. Okay. Set the parking brake. So what I'm gonna do is just increase our thrust. We have landing lights and everything turned on. Flaps are set. Speed brake is armed. Sorry, spoilers are armed. Engine increase thrust, and then just release the parking brake and torque thrust. We will be starting our rotation at about 121 knots, just around that, since the aircraft is buoyant. 100 crossed, 120, 25, starting the roll. We have the positive rate, gear is up, and just maintaining 10 degrees of nose. We have flight director is already on. 180 knots, around 8 degrees of nose. This part of the flight is going to be just manually flying because of primarily the terrain, and that's just to make sure that everything is okay. So I'm gonna be just retracting flaps as we are passing around 200 knots. We are crossing 8,500. I'm gonna just maintain this 8 degrees of nose, which is quite the perfect at this moment and conditions. So our climb is a bit different from the other destinations that you might see in the other airports. We have to get used to this valley and find the tough spot and just exit with our climbable aircraft and just evaluate. And if you were to ever experience the landing or approach into this particular airfield, you would see that the arrival is as challenging as departure. So there are very few margin for errors. So as we're passing 10,000 feet, I'm gonna just turn off the landing lights. I'm gonna just keep the seatbelt signs on because there's mountainous terrain and we get upward drift, wind drifts and all that, so it might be a bit turbulent. So I'm gonna just try to pull up a bit, about 10 degrees of nose, so we can clear the terrain ahead of us. We're gonna just be pointing at the valley on the left of us and then just hopefully clear the terrain. Well, as mentioned, possible terrain upward drift might cause some turbulence, so we are experiencing that and we're just passing our 15,000 initial altitude, and that's what the fly-by-wire system is just giving us the warnings. So we will be just setting our cruise altitude, which is 340. So leveling our wings, setting 340, and our climb rate should be about 2200. Seems right. I'm gonna set the autopilot and then just let the flight plan follow our flight through the rest of our journey. You see, I was not following the flight plan over here just to avoid the terrain, and what it's gonna do is just go ahead and follow the next waypoint and then on to the next one and until our destination. As we are climbing and we are about 20,000 feet, the seatbelt in this flight will come off around 25,000 feet, which is more or less our altitude where you can roam freely in the cabin. And I'm gonna just unarm the speed brake and, or the spoiler, sorry. I'm used to speed brakes because in the Boeing you used to call it the speed brakes. So in Airbus, I'm not sure. I mean, it's called the spoilers. So yeah, using the correct terminology. And meanwhile, I'm gonna be just announcing on Unicom that we have departed and we are at our climbing altitude, and we will be announcing our the what do you call it? Our cruise altitude. Good afternoon, every aircraft on this frequency. This is Pakistan 632 climbing flight level 340, currently at 22,000 feet. Correction, 23,000 feet, and the destination is Islamabad. So we have quite beautiful terrain, and well, in the simulator they are a bit different and difficult to identify and name, but there are very famous peaks around this region. And if I'm not completely wrong, we might have Nanga Parbat on our left side, which is around 27,000, 25,000 feet, around that. And the Pakistan's highest mountain is just behind us, which was in the north of Skardu airfield. And the elevation on that is 28,000, I think 6 meters, 600 meters. Okay, so we are reaching Delta, which is our first waypoint, and then to Bunji, which are essentially the same waypoints when we make an arrival into this airfield. And the flight is fairly short, it's about 1 hour in total. So at this moment, I'm gonna just turn off the seatbelt sign off, the wing, engine, and every other icing is on, anti-ice switches are on. And yeah, the thrust is set to the climb thrust, and the speed is in managed speed mode. We are encountering a bit of a turbulence, which is normal in this area, and this weather over here is being considered, or is considered very nice relatively. So the second highest mountain in the world, Karakoram 2, is somewhere in that region, just behind the aircraft. And yeah, as we move towards Islamabad, we are gonna see less and less terrain, and the terrain altitude will decrease. And yeah, I think we might be able to see somewhere over here Chitral Airport, which is one of the two airports that we have in the northern Pakistan. And the flight operations are carried out to these two destinations in the northern areas of Pakistan. We are just about 32,000 feet, 31,000 feet, and reaching our cruise altitude. The beautiful valleys that we see below us. Okay, so fly-by-wire A320 seems to have some kind of a problem with managing the speed, which I have encountered before as well. As you see right now as well, it's having difficulty. Let's try to give it the manual value, and we're gonna set our altimeter to standard. So if I were to set Mach 76, let's see if it tries to achieve that. Okay, yeah, so it seems to be working. It's having difficulty in climbing with the turbulence and the weight and the climb. Okay, so we reach our climb altitude, the cruise altitude 340, and seems to be bumpy today. Our next waypoint after Bunji is Alpha Kilo Tango India X-ray, and then we will have two remaining waypoints. As talked before, we will be setting our destination into Islamabad, and our arrival will be ILS runway 10 right, and we will use the following. The Bogan, if I'm not wrong. Sorry. The Kilo departure. I think I might be using the wrong waypoint. Standby right Zulu. And just having a look at the flight plan. I'm trying to avoid Azure, but there seems to be no way around it. So I'm gonna erase this one. Arrival 10 right Yankee. Bucko 1 Charlie. Yeah, this one involves his tour as well. Okay, and on this one, okay, so we're gonna just use our last waypoint, then the BTR, and insert this one. So into the plan mode, I'm gonna just have a look where reaches tour, and then just circle back to land at 10 right. Okay, so let's check out our top of descent, which is just about after Caglo. Okay, so just after our next waypoint, we should be starting our descent. Okay, since everything seems perfect and okay to me, so what I'm gonna do is just put on some music and start back when we are close to the descent.
Hold me close till I get up. Time is barely on our side. I don't wanna waste what's left. The storms we chase are leading us, and love is all we'll ever trust. Yeah, no, I don't wanna waste what's left. And on we'll go, through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And on we'll go, to see the horizon. Turn us to thousands, and we'll grow in number. Fueled by them to see the horizon. Turn us to thousands. We'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, till my shadow turns to sun rays. And we'll go through the wastelands, through the highways, and open eye, feel the waves cut through me, hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me. So alive, make it last forever. Stop in time, yeah, I'm surrendering. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me.
Okay, so we just crossed our top of descent and just starting our initial descent to Islamabad. And by crossing Bobam, we should be about at Isdur. We should be around at maximum 10,000 feet. Gonna just increase our descent rate to about 2200 feet. And I'm gonna just bring back our speed to just about 260 knots. So this is about the point we kind of clear the dangerous terrain, and that way you might start to call the foothills of Himalayas, and the terrain about in this region is somewhere around to 7,000, 8,000 feet, or max 10,000 feet. And just when we reach about Islamabad, which is just to the right of our screen, the terrain is not so much high, and we are just cleared of it, and we can just make our approach. So on the approach, our altitude would be 6,000 feet, and on the final, it would decrease down to 4,000, and then we will just make our landing into 10 right. So the idea over here is just to fly past the airport, when it will be just on the right side, and we will circle back and come in to land for 10 right. I'm gonna just show you in our flight plan. So right in front of us is Izdur. So we reach Izdur and make a tight right turn close to 180 degrees, and then just move back to our final approach into 10 right. Just gonna bring back our speed to 210 knots just to accommodate our descent and appropriate stable approach. The airport is just about 2 o'clock, and on 12 o'clock we have the city, and just about when the hills or the mountains have stopped, we can just see the capital, and from the city you can see at 2 o'clock we have, well, it's not visible at the moment, we have the airport. So we're gonna just continue straight ahead, then make 160 degrees about right turn, and then from there we will catch the glide slope and the localizer, and then descend down to 3,000 to 4,000 feet, and just continue to land and move on to your right. The weather is around 28 degrees at the moment, the destination, and the visibility is quite clear, and it's a very favorable condition for landing. So just about 4 to 5 miles ahead of us, we have the old airport in use, which used to serve until a few years ago, and the airport was international as this one, so it was a quite small airport, and just in the heart of the city. And on the right side, 3 o'clock, sorry, we have the Monument Mosque, the Faisal Mosque, which is quite famous, and just up in front of us the whole city is. So we will just continue for a few nautical miles more, and we will try to reduce our speed to 210. Throttle is having difficulties as always, just trying to reduce it to 210 knots as we approach. So back to 210. We will level off at 11,000 and then start our descent to 6,000 feet. Okay, actually 205 seems better. I will use the speed brake just a bit more since we are going to be descending. And as level off, we will descend down to 6,000 feet. And our descent rate would be around 1800. Seems appropriate. And from here we will just make a right turn. Yeah, we have the airport in sight and the runway 28 is the one that is visible from here. And on the opposite end we have the runway was 0 right, no 10 left. So what's more interesting is this piece of land just on the left side of the runway. We have just out of nowhere there's this piece of terrain over there, and it seems quite beautiful. Okay, we are coming back to 205 knots, and on the Unicom I will be announcing our position. Aircraft on Unicom frequency, this is Pakistan 632, descending to 6,000 feet to land at runway 010 right, Islamabad International Airport. As we are below 10,000 feet, I'm gonna turn on the landing lights. Seatbelt signed on, and we're gonna just start the APU just when we land into, and we're gonna set the QNH 2971. Okay, so we have ground spoiler arm, seatbelt sign on, engine eyes and everything else we won't be needing anymore, so we can turn it off. And everything else looks good for the moment. We will maintain 6,000 feet until we are just past the airport and make our final turn. So this is the problem that I was talking about. The aircraft is having trouble maintaining the speed. Not sure if everyone is experiencing the same problem, and I'm very sure that I'm not doing anything wrong. I mean, I have the auto throttle engaged, I have the speed mode engaged, and sometimes it does the same thing in the engaged speed mode as well. So what I do is just disengage and engage the auto throttle and move the throttle quadrant, and it seems to work with that. So we have the airport in sight, and we will just fly past it and then make a 180 just about at the foot of those hills that you see in front of the airport, and just on the 11 o'clock, and capture the localizer and the glide slope and make our way back into 108. So at this point, I mean, aircraft is capable of capturing the glide slope and making the auto land all by itself. So this is something I will be using today as well. So just passing the runway, I will be turning on the landing system or the ILS mode on, the ILS mode, and we have the ILS information available, the frequency you see over there, and it tells the distance to the touch point on the runway. And over here in the second console, you see the runway for which the ILS we have configured 10 right. And yeah, since you are seeing that we are moving away from runway, that is to capture the glide slope and the localizer. So we are actually using this arc over here. So what I'm gonna do is start our descent to 4,000 feet and reduce our speed to 180 knot. So makes it easier for us to capture the glide slope. So once we move to 180, we will be dropping flaps 1 notch, and there we go, the second notch of flaps. here we go, down to 4,000. Actually, it should be at 3,700 feet. So yeah, just about those tiny hills, we will be making a right turn of about 180 degrees and capture our localizer. We have the spoilers or speed brakes armed. We will set the auto brake to medium. Landing there, we will be dropping in a few minutes. I'm gonna just reduce our speed to 175 and drop 14 knots. So any minute we should be able to capture our localizer. Okay, down to 165.
2,500.
We have the runway right over there. Perfect. Make a right turn. And as soon as we see the diamond move, we should be able to capture the glide slope, the localizer. There we go. See the localizer. And this seems a perfect moment to turn on the approach mode. And as soon as we do that, I will be bringing back our speed to our landing speed. And as I do that, I'm gonna drop the gears. We have landing gear down. Wait for 3 greens. We have 3 greens and 4 flaps. Bringing back our speed to 135 knots. Glide slope is captured, localizer is captured, and just for the landing I'm gonna have to pause the music. feet. We will turn on the autopilot 1 and 2, category 3 landing, which is able to perform the auto land. We'll be just disconnecting the autopilot to about 50 feet above the ground.
One thousand.
1,000 feet check. 500 feet.
500. 400. 300. 200. 1 100. 50.
Clearing
30.
a bit.
20. Retard. Retard.
Maintaining the center line. We have the thrust reversers. Speed brake is doing its work. Gently touch down the nose. Deactivate the reversers. And the brake is disarmed. We will gently just roll off the runway to the left over here. That wasn't a very bad landing. Okay, we'll exit the runway over here. Right. Okay, set the parking brake. I'm gonna disarm the spoilers. Flaps 0. Start the APU bleed, and turn off the LS flight director. I'm gonna just announce on the Unicom that Pakistan 232 has vacated runway 10 right and will be crossing 10 left to pass on the gates. We will release the parking brake. And our gates should be 07 for today. Just a bit of thrust. And start moving. I've left the landing lights on since we will be crossing the runway. And as soon as we cross the runway, we will turn those landing lights off. And we will turn on the taxi lights. I will turn off the seatbelt sign. So the 07 is just about 10 or 11 o'clock. The third gate on our left. This is 03, 04. We have the 5. Six. And there we go. The gate 7. I was wrong. This is not the third one. But okay. Right. Just about over here. We park. Set the parking brake. I will turn off the light. Not to blind the workers. Turn off the engines. Engine switch is cut off. And here we are. just would open the forward cabin door. Of the jet wing. So we have one more flight over here, but that's all. No much of a busy day for today. Open the aft and cargo. Yeah, and the rest of the things. We have a jetway connection. Yeah, we can go ahead and shut off everything. So yeah, thank you everyone who watched, and have a nice weekend.